Today's lesson is Get Moving, the hidden risks of sitting down. Hello, everyone. I'm Mike.
I'm Roger, and today we're going to continue talking about sitting down too much and how it's going to affect your health. Last time we talked about a recent study that said Taiwanese high school students sit for 10.1 hours each day. And, of course, we've got some new information that says, yeah, this is a recipe for health problems if we sit around too much. It could also affect various chronic diseases if we sit around too much. And it can also affect our mood and our energy levels.
Exactly. We are animals that were made to move. We are two-legged monkeys. We weren't designed to have chairs in our lives. They're a more modern invention. And actually, jobs where we spend most of our time sitting in those chairs are a very modern invention of, white-collar work and office work and computer work and all of the other ways we have of entertaining ourselves that also involve sitting down when we're not at work. We're sitting at home. We're sitting on the bus, sitting in cars, sitting in airplanes, sitting in movie theaters. We're not standing enough, and it can cause real problems. Our bodies can get sick of that and make ourselves sick. Our muscles can waste away. Our metabolism, the way our bodies burn up food and use that energy, can be greatly changed by sitting down too much, and it can lead to chronic conditions, life-changing diseases like diabetes, cancer, and heart disease. As we finished up yesterday, we also learned that psychologically sitting down can be bad for you. It can negatively affect a person's mood and energy levels. You'll find yourself tired, cranky, and in a bad mood just because you've been sitting down way too much. So let's get into our article and find out some good ways to balance out our sitting lifestyle and try to move it towards a more healthy lifestyle.
Luckily, this problem has a simple solution: move more. Incorporating regular movement into the day helps combat the ill effects of prolonged sitting. If you can, stand up and move around every 30 minutes. For those whose work makes this impossible, scientists advise limiting sedentary periods to a maximum of 2 or 3 hours at a time. Even short bursts of activity, like a quick walk or a little stretching, can significantly benefit your health.
大家好，第一部分介绍动词 combat， 它的意思是与点对抗、打击或是制止。例如 Environmental activists are working hard to combat deforestation. 环境运动人士正在努力对抗森林砍伐。或者 The tourists brought warm hats and coats to combat the cold. 旅客带了保暖的帽子和大衣来对抗寒冷。下一个看到形容词 prolonged，表示持续很久的、长期的或是时间长的。例如 Prolonged exposure to sunlight can be bad for one's skin. 长期曝晒在阳光下可能对皮肤有害。或是 Beatrice is suffering from a prolonged illness. Beatrice 患有长期疾病。
Okay, so again, we're talking about the bad effects of sitting around too much. And I must say, Mike, we're not setting a very good example here.
We're sitting, aren't we?
Yeah, producing this program.
Oh, man.
You, me, the recording engineer, we're all sitting down right now producing this program. So after we get done with this program, we should stand up and move around, do some jumping jacks or something like that, or
do you think people mind if we record like this?
Yeah, maybe we can
jumping
record
around
while we record push-ups or something like that. That would be good. But in any case, this is a problem, and luckily this problem has a simple solution. It's not a complicated solution. It's a simple answer to this problem. We want to move more. Okay. And I think people in Taiwan have set a good example here. I noticed that a lot of them, of course, sit down playing on their phones. Now they're standing up to play on their phones. So that seems to be an improvement. Although I don't recommend doing that because, of course, if you're not watching where you're going, it could cause some problems. Yeah. But yes, move more, walk around, get out there and do some hiking or just walk around the block. Yes, indeed, that's the simple solution. Get up and move.
Absolutely. Now, we're not telling you to quit your job and become a farmer or something like that. No, you can still work in your office, but there are things that you can do when you don't have to sit down at your desk to try to get more movement into your life. It says incorporating regular movement into the day helps combat the ill effects of prolonged sitting. It involves lifestyle changes and changes in the choices that you make, and maybe being a little bit tough with yourself, kicking your own butt, not sitting down on the train, for example, or the bus, choosing to just stand up for that 20-minute ride to work or whatever it is, things like that. So you can incorporate regular movement into your day. To incorporate is basically to include something or to work something in. So let's say we have a plan or we have a schedule or something like that. If we want to incorporate something into that, we might have to adjust our schedule, but we're going to hopefully improve the schedule by adding or putting or taking something in and making it part of a whole. In this case, it would be making it a part of your daily physical activity or making it a part of your schedule or something like that. So you can change your schedule to include regular movement into your day. And this will combat or fight against the ill effects of prolonged sitting. Yes, to combat is to fight against something. So you could say the troops are combating their enemy in the jungle, or you could also say something, this medicine will help to combat the virus that you're currently suffering from, or something like that. Notice when we use it as a verb, we say combat, whereas if we're using it as a noun, like there's a lot of combat going on in that battle or in that war, then we put the stress on the first syllable. So the noun, combat, the verb to combat. And so we're combating or fighting against the ill effects, the negative effects, the bad things that prolonged sitting can bring into us, the things that we talked about yesterday, things like, changing your metabolism, raising your blood pressure, and even causing things like cancer or contributing to things like cancer and diabetes. This is the result of prolonged sitting, something that goes on too long, past the time that it should, or past the time when it's healthy, or past the time when it was scheduled to end. That is prolonged. It's kind of been stretched past its normal ending point.
Right. Prolonged, of course, means, as you said, it's gone on longer than it's supposed to be. Like California, for example, sometimes suffers from prolonged drought. When it doesn't rain a lot, it has prolonged droughts. And yes, indeed, incorporating that regular movement into your daily life can fight off those ill effects of prolonged sitting. I think a lot of people have exercise routines that they do. That's good, but still you need to be moving during the day. Get up and walk around. That will do you a world of good. And if you can, stand up and move around every 30 minutes.
Okay.
Again, that's easier said than done. But if you can remind yourself, indeed, get up and move around. Maybe a possible solution to this would be to drink lots of water while you're sitting at your desk, because finally, after a period of time, you'll have to get up and go use the restroom.
Okay.
And that will force you to get up and move around. So maybe that's a possible solution. And do this every 30 minutes.
There you go. Or just wear really tight underwear so it's really uncomfortable to sit down, and also to have a lot of water in your belly. For those whose work makes this impossible, scientists advise limiting sedentary periods to a maximum of 2 or 3 hours at a time. Yes, Roger and I have been sitting here doing this recording for about an hour now, so we haven't moved around every 30 minutes, so sometimes our work makes this impossible. If you're a truck driver, a bus driver, an airline pilot, someone who needs to kind of be sitting in a chair to do their job, it wouldn't be possible to walk around every 30 minutes. The people on the bus would be very upset if the driver took a 30-minute break to walk around the bus every half hour. So scientists advise, or they recommend, limiting sedentary periods. This is an important word, sedentary. A lot of these problems we're talking about, sitting down too much, lying around too much, this is the sedentary modern lifestyle, meaning not moving. We're kind of being passive, we're being still, we're sitting, we're lying, we're not being active, we're not moving our bodies and using our muscles. So this sedentary activity, this sedentary lifestyle is a big problem for a lot of modern folks. So try to limit those periods, those sedentary, non-moving, sitting down type periods of your day to a maximum of 2 or 3 hours at a time. You can sit for 2 or 3 hours to do something important, to be in a meeting or whatever, but even after that period of time, someone should call a timeout, someone should call a break, and everyone should get up. Move around, do some exercises, touch your toes, walk to the corner and back, things like that. It says even short bursts of activity, like a quick walk or a little stretching, can significantly benefit your health. That's what we're saying here. You don't have to go for a jog after 2 or 3 hours or hit the gym for an hour. No, just walking down to the store, climbing some stairs, even walking around your office or your home or a little bit can in a big way benefit your health. So it doesn't take much to break that sedentary cycle that is causing so many problems for people. Let's look at the second part of our article, and then we'll come back to chat about it.
In addition to taking activity breaks, several strategies can help reduce sitting time and increase physical activity. For office workers, switching to an adjustable desk allows for alternating between sitting and standing throughout the day. Outside of work and school, try walking part of or all the way home instead of using public transportation. Opt to play with friends in the park instead of sitting in a cafe. Active hobbies, such as hiking or dancing, can be other fun ways to add more movement to your daily life.
第二部分看到形容词 physical， 它的意思是身体的、实体的或是物理的。例如 The doctor performed a thorough physical examination to check the patient's health. 医生进行了一个彻底的身体检查，来确认病人的健康状况。也可以说 Physical contact should be avoided during a pandemic. 在疫情期间，应避免身体接触。继续看到动词 alternate， 它的意思是使交替或是轮流。例如 The music alternated from slow and sad to fast and loud throughout the movie. 整部电影的音乐从缓慢和悲伤交替到快速和响亮。再看一个例子 Rainy days and sunny days alternated for more than a week. 晴雨交替了1个多星期。
Okay, so at the end of the first part of our lesson, we suggested that you get up and walk around about every 30 minutes. And if you can't do that, well, you can have these short bursts of activity like taking a quick walk or doing some stretching that can be useful as well. Now, in addition, moreover, also in addition to taking activity breaks, several strategies can help reduce sitting time and increase physical activity. So when you have a plan that you want to accomplish, you will have a strategy, a sort of plan on how to accomplish your goal. So we have different kinds of plans or strategies that can help you reduce your sitting time, and it can help you increase your physical activity. We use the word physical when we talk about the body as opposed to the mind. So, of course, we always want to be physically fit, and we also want to be mentally fit in mind and body. And here we're talking about physical activity, moving your body in order to exercise.
Absolutely. For office workers, switching to an adjustable desk allows for alternating between sitting and standing throughout the day. Yeah, there are wonderful options out there that you can get in terms of desks and other office furniture. You can get these adjustable desks. They used to be called standing desks because they were designed to have very long legs, require the person using them to stand up instead of sitting in a chair. But now they're adjustable, meaning you can change it. If something's adjustable, it means you can adjust it, you can change it for your current usage, for your preference, for the way you like things. If you have an adjustable computer monitor, that means you can probably move it up, you can move it down, you can move it left and right, you can change the brightness and things like that. So people like things to be adjustable because they can use certain options to make it more convenient or more useful depending on the situation. So these adjustable desks are kind of like the office chairs that we have. You pull a little switch underneath the chair and it goes up, it goes down for a tall person, for a short person, for different types of working style or working activity. In the same way that we have desks that can be very low to the ground so you can sit under it with a chair, or it can be very high so that you have to stand up. And this allows for alternating or changing between sitting and standing throughout the day. So there you go. You have these options because your desk is adjustable. You can sit down for an hour and then raise it and stand for an hour and that kind of thing throughout your day. Outside of work or school, try walking part of or all the way home instead of using public transportation. Great advice. So instead of taking a bus to the MRT station, maybe get up a little bit early and walk to that MRT station, or instead of taking the bus home, walk home or something like that. Try to work as much walking and movement into your day if possible. You can walk a few extra blocks to get to a restaurant at lunch, and on your way back from lunch, maybe instead of taking the elevator up to your office floor, you can climb the stairs in the building. Just find little ways to move more through your normal working day.
Yeah, for example, I sometimes work in the Zhongxiao-Donglu area near City Hall, and I often take the City Hall MRT. But sometimes, just to have a little chance to do some walking, I actually walk all the way down to the Red Line at Taipei 101 and take the train there in order to return to Mujia. And indeed, that's an example of doing this, kind of changing things around, and it not only does you good physically, but it can also do you some mental good because, hey, it's a different kind of scene, it's a different scenario, you can see different things, and you can breathe fresh air and things like that. So indeed, you can alternate between taking the train directly from your office or walking to a stop further on. And yes, indeed, these are things you can do in addition to the things we already suggested, and opt to play with friends in the park instead of sitting in a cafe. That's hard to persuade people to do because that is so ingrained in the culture here to go to a cafe and bring your books with you and sit there for about 3 or 4 hours studying and drinking coffee. Choose to go with your friends to the park instead. Shoot some hoops, play basketball, go for a walk. And there certainly is not a lack of such facilities, at least here in Taipei. There are lots of parks to go to. And if you're sitting in a cafe, you are wasting a golden opportunity to get out there and get some physical activity.
That is very true. And then when you're not working, it says active hobbies, such as hiking or dancing, can be other fun ways to add more movement to your daily life. So yes, we have a lot of hobbies, right? People enjoy to do their hobbies. These are things that interest them, that they do during their free time, pastimes, hobbies. We often lump these things together. Hobbies are a little bit more active, I would say. Hobbies might be things like gardening or art or playing music or something, whereas a pastime might be something a little more passive, where you're not actually doing it, you're not actually learning as you go, things like playing video games or reading comic books, reading books, stuff like that. But all of these different hobbies, these things we enjoy doing when we're not working, when we don't have a lot of responsibilities, such as working or studying, we can do active hobbies instead on the weekend. Hiking, dancing, playing sports is an obvious one too, or as I said, gardening, right? If you're moving around your garden, bending over, picking things up, lifting things, anything that involves you not sitting in a chair, basically, can be other fun ways to add more movement to your daily life. That's the important thing we're talking about here. We're not saying you have to go to the gym and get your heart rate up to 110 and sweat for an hour and do all that stuff. We're just saying don't sit in a chair. Find something to do that requires you to be moving around as much or as little as you want, but at least a little bit.
Better than nothing. Let's move on now to the final paragraph. We will listen first.
The risks associated with a sedentary lifestyle are clear, but thankfully, so are the solutions. By adopting simple habits that promote physical activity, we can mitigate these dangers and safeguard our well-being.
第3部分介绍动词 associate， 指把点点点联想或是联系在一起，也可以是使产生联系的意思。举例来说 ，The heart symbol is associated with love。星星符号令人联想到爱情，或是 I associate snow with Christmas。我把雪和圣诞节联想在一起。再来看到动词 adopt， 表示采取或是采纳。例如 Bernard adopted a new technique for making pancakes。Bernard 采取了一个新技法来制作薄煎饼。也可以说 I've decided to adopt a new perspective on life and be more positive。我已决定采纳新的人生观，要更积极正面。最后看到动词 mitigate， 表示使减轻或是缓和。可以说 It is hoped that wind farms will mitigate the need for using fossil fuels。希望风力发电厂会减轻对石化燃料的需求。最后一个例子They've come up with a solution to mitigate possible risks. 他们提出了一种解决方案来缓和可能的风险。
Okay, now here it's going to conclude the lesson that says the risks associated with a sedentary lifestyle are clear. Associated here is often used with a preposition with. Something is associated with something. They have a relationship with each other. They have to do with each other. So if you have a sedentary lifestyle, there are risks that are associated with that. And thankfully, there are solutions. There are answers. You can actually have a solution to this problem by adopting simple habits that promote physical activity. We can mitigate or reduce these dangers and safeguard our well-being. So if you adopt these simple habits, if you incorporate those in part of your life, if you include them in your life, these things will improve your physical activity, and then we can reduce these dangers. We can mitigate them. We can control them so that they are less in severity or less in number, and then we can safeguard or guarantee or protect our well-being, and well-being just refers to how healthy you are.
And, of course, being as healthy as we can is a goal of many folks. And I think this article has shown that even though it's something to be aware of and something to avoid, it's not that hard to avoid. You don't have to become a professional athlete or the fittest person you know to just incorporate some movement into your life. It will help to mitigate many of those undesirable health problems that we would all like to avoid. All right, we have some time now to go over to our Chinese speaker, who I'm sure is standing at the ready, and then we'll be back with our discussion starter question.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第二部分提到，对上班族来说，改用可调整的办公桌可以让人在一天中时而坐着，时而站着。文中是用 adjustable 来形容可调整的、可调节的。那它是由动词 adjust 加上形容词字尾 able 而来的。我们来补充一下 adjust 它的字首字根。好，看到 just 或是 jud 或是 jur 这一类的字根呢，它有正确的或是判断的意思。很多跟法律相关的字都带有这一类的字根，像 judge 法官，它也可以当动词来指判决、评断。还有像 jury， 它是陪审团的意思。那我们来看看在 adjust 这个字当中，它的字首 ad 表示朝向，just 的部分表示正确的。那当我们在调像手表的时间好了，或者是调音量，这时候就是要把它朝正确或是适当的状态来做调整。那从这个方式也许可以联想到 adjust， 它就有调整啊、调节、改变以适应什么什么的意思。我们顺便补充两个有这一类字根的单字。第一个是 justify， 它的字根 just 表示正确的， ify 是动词字尾，那么合在一起 justify 就表示使合理化，证明什么什么是正当的。第二个补充的是 prejudice， 它的字首 pre 表示事先，字根 jud 表示评断，ice 是名词字尾，事先对某人事物做出评断，应该很容易联想到 prejudice， 它有偏见啊、成见的意思。好，那么课文第三部分第一句写到，跟久坐生活方式有关的风险是显而易见的，但幸好解决方法亦是如此。好，文中它用到 so are the solutions 来表达解决方法亦是如此，也是如此的意思。那我们来学习一下用 so 开头的这个肯定复合句，它的句型是 so 加上助动词或 be 动词加主词。好，那么其中这个 so 在这边是当副词来表达也是，而后方的主词要跟助动词或 be 动词对调来形成倒装。我们这边造两个例句。 Tina had bread and coffee for breakfast. So did I. Tina 早餐吃面包配咖啡，我也是。 Reading is relaxing and so is listening to music. 阅读很令人放松，听音乐也是。好，那我们也来补充一下否定复合。我们可以用 neither 或是念作 neither， 加上助动词或 be 动词，再加主词去表达也不怎么样怎么样。像是 Sharon isn't going to the party and neither are we。Sharon 不会去参加派对，我们也不会。They haven't been to Iceland and neither have we. 他们没有去过冰岛，我们也没去过。好，那么以上今天重点整理，我们来回顾今天单字吧。
Incorporate. This band incorporates a variety of styles into their music. Combat. New laws were recently introduced to combat rising crime rates in the city. Prolonged.After a prolonged discussion, they finally reached an agreement. Physical.
To stay healthy, people should engage in regular physical exercise.
Alternate. They decided to alternate between working from home and going to the office. Associate. Many people associate summer with vacations and going to the beach. Adopt. Some schools are adopting new teaching methods in order to better engage students.
Discussion Starter starts now!
Here's our discussion starter question for today. The question is, what do you do or what will you do to avoid prolonged sitting?
One thing that I do to avoid sitting for too long is I try to walk as much as possible. I try to get in, well, you're normally in a typical working day, I can get kind of 6,000 to 8,000 steps in. I think that's pretty good. If I can get it up to 10 or higher, that would be even better. And then when I'm on holiday, I love to go for long walks. I was recently home in Canada, and I was trying to do 20,000 steps in a day. And you know what? It wasn't that hard. It was actually quite pleasant.
If you enjoy it, it's probably not difficult at all. You probably don't even have to count eventually. But for me, to avoid prolonged sitting, I like to stand up and do some Taiji Chuan, which I actually studied many years ago, and I kind of stopped doing it for a while, but I've recently rediscovered it and realized that, hey, I know how to do this, and I'm wasting my time not doing it when I can. So yes, oftentimes I stand up and do a couple of Taiji moves for maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and then I feel like $1 million. Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I am Mike.
See you next time.